All right. I am going to continue talking about the rapture. And I don't know how many videos I'll make about this topic, but I think it's important to talk about it, important to wrestle through all the scripture verses, because I know for as many people believe in a pre-trib rapture, there's just as many people believing in a mid-trib and then also a post-trib, and there's probably a ton of people that don't believe in any rapture at all. So let's just start off by reading one of the comments by, I don't think this person subscribed to my channel, but hopefully you did. Like if you comment on my channel, just subscribe. That kind of helps me grow my channel as well. And who knows, maybe you might be mentioned on my channel. So this is from Kyle Young. This is about a day ago. It isn't about being right or wrong. Instead, it's about faith. Anyone reading this should ask themselves, do I have faith in the Messiah, Jesus Christ? I think I think what Kyle meant to say is, do I have faith in Jesus Christ? Because Christ means Messiah. So do I have faith in the Messiah, Jesus Christ? Do I have faith in being bought by his blood? Because according to Kyle, you need faith that you are bought by his blood. Do I have faith in the promises of Jesus Christ? Without faith, you are no different than the world. And if you have not been born again, saved, bought by the shed blood of Jesus Christ, then the harpazo, Greek rapture, or in the Latin Vulgate, caught up, which is English, won't be for you. I think what they're saying, or I think what Kyle is saying, is without faith, it's going to be very difficult to believe in the rapture. So he goes on to say there are 7 raptures in the Bible, rapture examples, I think is what he meant. I will go through those and let's just have a look at them. He goes on to say pre-trib rapture equals Revelation 3:10. If you're wise, you will study this in the original Koinonia Greek. If you're wise, study it in the original Greek. If trying to teach about the rapture, why didn't you teach about the 7 examples of rapture? Why lie about God's character? Shame on you. So I try not to take any of these comments personal because I get comments all the time. I get comments that are nice. I get comments that are not so nice. And I appreciate the fact this person took time to copy and paste the 7 raptures and to look up these scriptures and all this kind of stuff and then post on here. To take that time to do that, I appreciate it. So we're going to go through these 7 raptures in the Bible and we're going to wrestle through these verses. So if you like this kind of thing, this is why we're here on the channel. And if you want me to do a shout out, make a comment like this, good or bad. Sometimes I'll just read comments and then we'll talk about it. Let's do this together. All right, so let's go into let's talk about Enoch, Genesis 5:42. So Genesis 5:42. There's not a lot on Enoch, but we can just read a couple of verses. And Enoch lived 65 years and begat Methuselah. And Enoch walked with God after he begat Methuselah 300 years and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Enoch were 365 years. And Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. Okay, so now we have a rapture verse that we can take to the bank, and we can now go around telling people, look, Enoch walked with God, and God took him, for he was not anymore here on earth. We assume that he took them to heaven. So we can use that one verse and build a doctrine around it and say, this is absolutely, we are all going to be taken like Enoch because we are with God. You can do that. For me, sometimes I like to have a little bit more scripture verses, not just take one, because then you also have to line it up with what did Jesus say as well. What was he talking about? What was he saying? And we'll talk about that a little bit later. So we have one verse that you can take to the bank right now, and you can say, okay, the 100%, Shane, this speaks 100% of rapture for all believers, all Christians around the world, that God is going to take us up. We don't know when, because this doesn't give us a time frame. But if we use this as our reference, this is what's going to happen to us. So I think this is what Kyle is saying. We could use this as a rapture reference to build a portfolio to show someone and say, look, here are examples of raptures that happen to these people. Therefore, this will happen to us. So I think that's what Kyle is trying to do, is build a little bit of a case. So let's go into, he quoted Hebrews 11:5. So let's check out Hebrews 11:5. Now, I haven't read any more of these verses. So let's, so I can't recall exactly what they're going to say. So we'll just look them up right now. Hebrews 11:5. So this is faith before the flood. So we're probably talking about Enoch. Yeah, 11:5. By faith, Enoch was translated that he should not see death, and was not found because God had translated him. For before his translation, he had this testimony, that he pleased God. Okay, so now we're building a portfolio here for the rapture. So without faith, it's impossible to please him. All right, so by faith, Enoch was translated that he should not see death. So this is what we're talking about here. If we're going to use this, we're saying that if you have faith, you're not going to see death, because this is what happened to Enoch. Enoch did not see death. So if this is what we're believing, there are people dying around us, just so you know, for the past 2,000 years. Well, in fact, since Adam and Eve, people have been dying. And if you go to the book of Revelation, the last thing to go is death. The very last thing, near the end of the book of Revelation. Not at the beginning. Death doesn't go. It's at the end. So I would say that this is definitely talking about Enoch having faith and pleasing God. And we see that God translated him. So let's add that to the portfolio of 100% proof that the rapture is true. Let's put that in that portfolio. According to Kyle, we're building a case for rapture, for the rapture, for everyone that believes and has faith in Jesus Christ, that we're going to get plucked, that we're not going to see death. We're not going to see death. We're not going to die. Okay, because you got to have faith. If you die, you don't have faith. That would be the conclusion that you could reach from this, because Enoch had faith and was raptured. He was translated. He did not see death. Therefore, if we see people around us dying first, we can go, wow, that person did not have faith. Therefore, I must have faith because I don't want to die. This is what we're building. We're building this rapture portfolio. So I hope you can see some of the holes in this type of thinking. This is what we're going to do. We're going to do this together. All right. So I'm just going to pause this video for 1 sec, because I got to go give my dog a needle. My dog is diabetic. I'm not very good at giving needles, but my wife is out tonight. So I will be back. And to you guys watching this video, you're going to see maybe a little blip You won't even notice that I'll be gone for a couple of minutes. So I'm going to pause this video. All right, that was a smashing success. There's been times where I'm out of breath. I ran up the stairs. There's times where I've given my dog the needle and he's actually ran away from me with the needle in his back. So humiliating. One time I went through his skin. Another time I jabbed myself in the thumb. So anytime I would normally bring the needle out, my dog would get a little bit nervous and he's like, nope, not going to do it. So, but tonight he was totally relaxed. Let me give him a needle, give him a little snack. All right, so we are continuing. We're building our portfolio for the rapture. We found Enoch in the book of Genesis. We found Enoch in the book of Hebrews. So we're building a portfolio that will tell everyone around us that's saying, look, Enoch was translated. Enoch was raptured. Therefore, we are all, as Christians, going to be raptured. But we don't know when. We're assuming it's before we die. This is what we're building here. We're building a case because Enoch was raptured before he died. He didn't see death. So this is the case we're building here, that the rapture happens before we die, right? Not after we die, because that gets a little bit confusing. If you're dead, you don't really care about what's happening on earth before you die, if that makes sense. It's a little confusing. All right, so let's go to 2 Kings chapter 2, verse 1, and we're talking about Elijah. This is Elijah getting raptured. Let's go. 2 Kings chapter. I'm on actually 2 Kings right now. Let's see here. So 2 Kings 2:1. All right. So, and it came to pass that as they still went on and talked, this is Elisha and Elijah, that behold, there appeared a chariot of fire and horses of fire and parted them both asunder. And Elijah went up by a whirlwind into heaven. So this is we're adding this to our portfolio that says that, look, Elijah was carried away by a fiery chariot with horses up to heaven. Therefore, this is what's going to happen to all of us before we die. All of us are going to get raptured. Now, you might be saying, well, Shane, no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying before Jesus comes, we're going to get raptured like this, because this is a rapture verse that Kyle gave, saying that Elijah was carried away by a chariot of fire, that this is what's going to happen to us. This is an example of a rapture that we can use and hang on to when we're having our Bible studies and our devotional time and saying, look, this happened to Elijah. He was taken up in front of Elisha, and his mantle was left behind so that Elisha can carry his mantle and be basically twice as good as Elijah and carry on with his ministry, but not Elijah. Elijah was taken away, raptured, captured. So we're adding this to our portfolio again because Enoch was translated as well. He had faith in God and it pleased God, so God took him. So this is what's going to happen to us before we die. We're going to get taken before we die, or we're going to get captured in a fiery chariot. So I know it could sound like I'm being facetious, but I'm actually reading the scripture verses that was recommended to me to help me be wise and help me understand that this is 100% talking about a rapture. Okay, so these two instances so far. So then what's interesting is a little bit later, verse 16. And they said unto him, Behold, now there be with thy servants 50 strong men. Let them go, we pray thee, and seek thy master, lest peradventure the Spirit of the Lord hath taken him up and cast him upon some mountain or into some valley. And he said, Ye shall not send. So Elisha didn't want to send them. And these 50 men were saying, Look, we saw which direction the chariot of fire went. It went up and it went this way. So we're going to go in case God tosses him out of the chariot, and we're going to go rescue him. It's kind of bizarre, but that's what they did. They searched for him, like, I think it was 3 days. Doesn't say how long. Does not say how long. Oh, yeah, it does. 3 days. But they didn't find him. So after 3 days, they came back to Elisha, and he's like, Didn't I tell you not to go looking for him? Kind of interesting why they would even do that. All right, so we got those two under the belt. Now we have Jesus Christ. Mark 16, verse 9, talking about the rapture. Mark 16. So my question to you is, are you feeling persuaded right now? Have we built enough evidence that we are to be raptured either before we die or in a chariot of fire? You have to sit back and think about this for a little bit. All right, so Mark 16:9. This is good content. Thank you for commenting on my YouTube channel because it helps me make videos. All right. Mark 16:9. Having a little bit of tough time focusing, I must admit. I haven't eaten all day, but I wanted to make a video. So 7 o'clock my time. Yeah, I have to think about what I'm gonna make for supper. A little bit hungry tonight. All right. Mark 16, verse 9. Do ye not understand, neither remember the 5 loaves of the 5? That's not it. Mark 16:9. Okay. Do ye not yet understand, neither remember the 5 loaves of 5,000 and how many baskets ye took up? Oh, it's Matthew. My bad. I was like, this is not making any sense. I was like, okay, maybe we can go there, but it's not making sense to me. 16:9. Now, when Jesus was risen early the first day of the week, he appeared first to Mary Magdalene, out of whom he had cast 7 devils. Okay, that's according to Kyle, that's a rapture. I think that's a resurrection. That would be a resurrection verse. I would say that would support the resurrection because Jesus was risen early the first day of the week. All right, so let's see if he says something else. Acts chapter 1, verse 9. So Acts chapter 1. Maybe he's talking about faith. Here, chapter 1, verse 9. And when he had spoken these things, while they beheld, he was taken up, and a cloud received him out of their sight. Okay, this is interesting now. So the disciples are watching Jesus go up. And my question is, there are angels that are going to appear. My question is, are they going to say that you are going to go up in the same way that you see Jesus go up? Is that what they're going to say? Because then I would say this is a strong case for the rapture, that the same way that we see Jesus go up, this is what's going to happen to us. But if it's not, if it doesn't say that, then we have to think of something else. We have to come up with something else, because this is our rapture verse right here. So Acts 1, 9-11. So, and when he had spoken these things, while they beheld, he was taken up, and a cloud received him out of their sight. And while they looked steadfastly toward heaven as he went up, behold, two men stood by them in white apparel, which also said, Ye men of Galilee, why stand ye gazing up into heaven? This same Jesus, which is taken up from you into heaven, shall also come in the like manner as ye have seen him go into heaven. So if this is a rapture verse, it kind of sounds like the same way that you see him go up to heaven, you're going to see him come back down, not us go up. Now, I know there are references to us being raptured. I'm not saying there is no rapture. I'm saying before the resurrection of the dead, I'm saying there is no rapture. I'm saying the rapture comes after the resurrection of the dead, and then we'll be caught up together. The dead rise first, and then we who are still alive get caught up together to be with the Lord forever. According to this, we see the angels saying that in the same way that you see him go up, you're going to see him come down. Let me just read it again, just in case I misread it. Why stand ye gazing up to heaven, into heaven? This same Jesus was just taken up from you into heaven, shall so come in like manner as ye have seen him go into heaven. So the same way that you've seen him go into heaven, he'll come in the like manner. He will. Now, if you're saying that we are going in the like manner, that's a different conversation. Because here it says, shall so come in like manner as ye have seen him go. So as you see him go, you're going to see him come back. That's my interpretation of what that verse is saying. You see him go, he's going to come in the same manner, right back down and touching the ground. All right, so we got those. We're building a portfolio for the rapture. It's a little bit on shaky ground because we have before death being translated. We have a fiery chariot, and then we have Jesus coming back the same way that he left. I don't see anything yet for us, all of us as Christians around the world, being raptured again before we die. All right. Revelation 12:5. Finally, we get to Revelation. So let's see what Revelation 12. Revelation 12. I hope this is helpful because it's good to go through this process. This is what I do. I look at the scriptures and I sit back and I think about it. I'm going, what is this actually saying? Like, can I understand it? And I think it's important to do that. Revelation 12:5. I sometimes wish, and this is something that could happen down the road, that I would have a guest on my podcast, if you will, on my YouTube channel, where we can go back and forth, where I can talk and the person can look up the scripture verses and read them, or they can talk and I could read scripture verses and then we can have a conversation, because sometimes it's hard to look up the verses. It's not completely difficult, but it takes time to look up the verse, read it, and then analyze and talk about it. Whereas if you have two people, you can have a conversation back and forth. So if this is of interest to you, reaching out to my audience, if you want to be a guest on my YouTube channel, I don't care if you have different beliefs than me. If you are a good communicator, if you're better at communicating than I am, and you don't mind reading the Bible and all this kind of stuff, you don't even have to read a King James. You can read another version if you like. But if you are good at interacting with people and you like the idea of maybe jumping on my channel, then I'll put my email in the description, and then I will interview you. We'll do a Zoom call. We'll talk back and forth, and we'll see if there's a bit of chemistry there, because then maybe I can have you on my show, on my YouTube channel. And it'll make it more interesting instead of just me talking all the time, because I actually enjoy playing off of people as well. So we'll see. I'm just throwing it out there. It doesn't matter, male or female. 12:5. And she brought forth a man-child who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron, and her child was caught up unto God and to his throne. So her child was caught up unto God and to his throne. All right, so I guess I'm gonna underline this verse here. There's a lot going on in this one. Just gonna underline that. There's lots going on here. So she brought forth a man-child. I think this is talking about the nation of Israel, who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron, and her child was caught up unto God and to his throne. I'm guessing this is talking about Jesus Christ. So if you're thinking that this is a rapture verse for us, that we are to be like Christ and get raptured up to his throne, you could leap to that. I kind of think this is talking about Israel and Jesus Christ. That's what I think is going on here. But let's go on to Philip, Acts 8:39. I love this one. This is a good one here. Acts 8 and 9. Love the book of Acts. I've probably read the book of Acts like 20 times in the last year. Love the book of Acts. All right, so this is our rapture verse here. This is for all believers. So if you read this, you should be on alert that this can happen to us as well. Verse 39, and when they were come up out of the water, the Spirit of the Lord caught away Philip, that the eunuch saw him no more, and he went his way rejoicing. But Philip was found at Azotus, and passing through, he preached in all the cities till he came to Caesarea, where he ended up living. So we see here a case for a rapture. This is what I would call a horizontal rapture. So some versions say he was translated to another town. So he was here, and then instantaneously he was in another town preaching. Horizontal, not raptured upward, raptured horizontally. Therefore, this is what we can expect, horizontal raptures. Now, I could probably build a little bit of a case for that, saying that, if we're going to be raptured, we're going to be raptured towards Jerusalem. I could build a little bit of a case, but I would probably be the only one on the planet that would think that we're all going to get raptured to the surrounding area of Jerusalem, like a 1,500-mile square radius with a fiery wall protecting all its citizens for hundreds of years until the devil decides to amass an army, or until he gets released from prison after 1,000 years and amasses an army and decides, hey, these guys are wide open, let's go and take them out. And he gathers all the nations from all the world to come against Israel. God intercedes and wipes them out. So you can build a little bit of a case for that. But for this verse here, this is a lateral rapture going this way. So maybe it's a mile, 2 miles this way. So if that's what we're converting over to us being raptured after we baptize someone, we're going to go straight up to heaven before we die. I'm not sure. Because this one is saying that he's going this way. We have a fiery chariot. We have Enoch being translated because he pleased God and was no more after 365 years. Never saw death. So we have Enoch, Philip going this way. All right, so Um, if you take one scripture and build a whole case out of it, I do believe you have to have a bit more. You have to have a few more verses to be able to build your case. You can't just make up stuff. You can pose theories and say this is kind of a guess, which I do a lot. I guess a lot, especially when it comes all the way back to the Garden of Eden. I spend a lot of time guessing because sometimes it's hard to tell what's really going on there. It's hard to tell. Anyways, let's continue on. We're going to Paul now, 2 Corinthians 12. 2 Corinthians 12. 2 Corinthians 12. Should have my sister come on here. Amy, if you're watching this, give me a call. She is a great talker. Actually, all my sisters are great talkers. Where are we? 2 Corinthians 12. 2 Corinthians 12, 2-4. I knew a man in Christ above 14 years above. Yeah, it does say above 14 years ago, whether in the body I cannot tell, or whether out of the body I cannot tell, God knoweth. Such an one caught up to the third heaven, and I knew such a man, whether in the body or out of the body I cannot tell, God knoweth. How that he was caught up into paradise and heard unspeakable words, which it is not lawful for a man to utter. Of such a one will I glory, yet of myself will I not glory, but in my infirmities. For though I would desire to glory, I shall not be a fool, for I will say the truth. But now I will forbear, lest any man should think of me above that which he seeth me to be, or that heareth of me. So you can look at this a couple of ways. I don't see a rapture in here. According to Kyle, this is a rapture verse. This is something that we can meditate on and think about it, that if we're caught up in a vision, that is like a rapture. We're being caught up to the third heaven. What I see here is Paul wrestling with something here. And my theory is, this is where I go off on a theory. I think what Paul is wrestling with is the idea that he is getting so many revelations left, right, and center that he is beginning to get puffed up a little bit. He's starting to feel it like, whoa, man, every time I turn around, every time I close my eyes, I'm getting a revelation of something deeper. And then he starts writing his letters. And he's wrestling with this because he doesn't want to get so puffed up that people are looking at him like, look at Paul. He gets all the revelations. We don't get anything. So I believe this was a struggle for Paul to go through this because he's getting constant revelations. At least that's what it looks like to me, that he didn't want to boast in it. He didn't want to boast that he has all these revelations. So God gave him a thorn in the flesh to keep him humble, a demonic spirit, if you will. Something was bothering him to keep him humble. I'm not going to mention what other people think that he was struggling with, because it's just kind of weird when you think about the heart of Paul. It seems like this is what's going on right now. And now there are people that think that he was talking about John on the island of Patmos, that maybe he was working on the book of Revelation, and maybe this is what Paul is talking about. But it's kind of interesting that how he was caught up to the paradise and heard unspeakable words. If this was about John, John wrote down basically everything he heard, almost everything. And Jesus wants us to read the book of Revelation over and over and over again. So I don't think this is the same situation, because he said this was unlawful. This was not lawful for man to utter. So there was some deep, deep secrets that this person he's talking about was caught up. I think it's just another way of him talking about himself. Personally, this is what I believe. And then he's saying, for though I would desire to glory, I shall not be a fool, for I will say the truth. But now I forbear, lest any man should think of me above that which seeth me to be, or that heareth of me. So clearly Paul's talking about, I don't want anybody to think that I'm anything special, above and beyond, like almost to the point where it's a distraction for people to enter in, to believe in Jesus Christ. Because that would be intimidating if every time you got together and the guy's talking about visions of the third paradise and all these revelations and stuff, it could distract people. And Paul did not want to distract. He didn't want to share anything spectacular that would take away from what's happening in that person's life. So, of course, it goes on to verse 7, lest I should be exalted above measure through the abundance of the revelations. There was given me a thorn in the flesh, a messenger of Satan, to buffet me, lest I should be exalted above measure. So there you go. Because he had an abundance of revelations. Interesting, right? Through the abundance of the revelations. So clearly from Paul, he had an abundance of revelations. All right, so back to finding a rapture, building our case, building a portfolio. Okay, the body of Christ, 1 Thessalonians 4:17. Hopefully you're getting something out of this. I'm getting something out of this. 1 Thessalonians 4. 1 Thessalonians 4:17. I'm just going to read a few verses here. I'm going to read from verse 13 to 18 so you can get clarity. The dead in Christ shall rise. That's kind of a hint right there. But I would not have you to be ignorant, brethren, concerning them which are asleep, people that have died, that ye sorrow not, even as others which have no hope. For if we believe that Jesus died and rose again, even so them which sleep in Jesus will God bring with him. So these are believers. For this we say unto you by the word of the Lord, that we which are alive and remain unto the coming of the Lord shall not prevent them which are asleep. So we're not going to go up before those that are asleep. Can you hear me? I'm saying exactly what's being said here, that again, the Lord shall not prevent them which are asleep. All right, so again, I have to read it. For this we say unto you by the word of the Lord, that we which are alive, obviously Paul is dead, but today we're reading this, those of us that are alive are reading this, that we which are alive and remain unto the coming of the Lord shall not prevent them which are asleep. Again, meaning they are going to rise first. The dead will rise first. Then we will be caught up in the air with them. For the Lord himself shall descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trump of God, and the dead in Christ shall rise last. The dead in Christ shall rise first. For some reason we think it's last, but they're going to. So if you see people rising from the dead around you, look up. Your redemption is near. That would be a hint right there. See people rising from the dead, they're going to rise first. We're going to meet them in the air. Pretty clear. Then we which are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. And so shall we be ever, and so shall we ever be with the Lord? Wherefore, comfort one another with these words. Okay. This is difficult because there are still going to be people that will message me after this video and say, Shane, you took these verses out of context. Let me try not to take it out of context. The dead, the people that are asleep in Christ, believers, will rise first. The ones that are dead for the past 2,000 years, the ones that are dead in Christ will rise first. Then we that are alive will be caught up with them. So if you think that the dead rising first and us being caught up with him in the air is the pre-tribulation rapture, that would almost mean, or pretty much mean, that there is nobody dying after that because the dead are raised first. You can't have people dying after that. So the dead rise first, then the people that are alive. That sounds like all people in Christ that are being raptured. That's my whole point. I'm not saying there is no rapture. I'm saying it comes after the trouble, after tough times. And I don't know why people don't want to jump on board with this. They would rather say, no. I believe that we are going to have an invisible rapture that is going to cause plane crashes and all kinds of stuff. And one person be left, one person taken, all this kind of stuff, just like the Left Behind series. And don't get me wrong, I think I have a couple of those books as well. Great science fiction. And I think I even watched a couple of those movies as well. But again, it's science fiction because it doesn't appear to be scriptural that we're going to be removed before. Because now you're talking about something else. Now you're saying, oh, yeah, well, there's another rapture. There's one before all of this stuff. Then there is another rapture where the dead are raised and Jesus comes back and gets us, and we that are alive are going up. But before that, there's another rapture, Shane. There's a top secret rapture, and we proved it. We proved it through these 7 raptures that I'm sharing with you. We have Enoch, we have Elijah in a chariot, we have Jesus coming down the same way that he left. He's coming down. That's a rapture, Shane. Don't you know that's a rapture? And then now Paul is saying that the dead are going to rise first. So be comforted that don't be sad for those that have died in Christ, because they're going to be raised first and we're going to meet them in the air. That should be an exciting thing. Very exciting. All right. So last one, John, Revelation 4. Revelation 4:1. This should bring it all home so that we are crystal clear that the rapture is happening, because we built a portfolio now based on Kyle's 7 raptures, that this is so clear that we are going before the going gets tough, before the dead raise. Chapter 4, verse 1. After this I looked, and behold, a door was open in heaven, and the first voice which I heard as it were of a trumpet. So the voice sounded like a trumpet, probably very bassy, very authoritative. I heard as it were a trumpet, like a trumpet. I heard a voice like a trumpet talking with me and said, come up hither, and I will shew thee the things which must be hereafter. So Kyle is saying that this is a proof that John is being caught up in a vision, and the angel or whoever this was is saying, come over here, I'm going to show you what's going to go on afterwards. He's saying that's a template for us, that we're going to get caught up like this, like John, the exact same way. Therefore, we need to go tell people, look, it's right here in Revelation chapter 4 that we're being caught up in a rapture. Everybody around the world that believes in Jesus Christ is going to be raptured before the dead are raised. And we're going to be raptured in a vision. So that's what this is. This is a vision. John is on an island of Patmos when he had a vision. So are we saying that that's what the rapture is? It's a vision only, and we're still here like the Matrix, and we get raptured out of the Matrix? All right, so those are the 7. That's all we have. So I will jump into my theory as to what's going to happen. People may not like it. And I'm just trying to think if I should share in this video or if I should make another video about it, because I've already been talking for a long time. Let me see if I can summarize what I believe we are going to go through before we get raptured. I think because we are in the age of grace right now, the age of mercy, that we should do whatever it takes to love on our fellow brothers and sisters and win them over by just simply loving on them, doing the right thing, helping them out, going the extra mile for them, and giving them hope, saying, look, yeah, times are going to get tough, but you know what? Jesus promises that one day we're all going to be resurrected. All those that believe in Jesus Christ. And in fact, the whole world is going to be resurrected one day. Some onto eternal life, and some onto eternal damnation, if you will. And I'd be happy to make another video about what my theory is about that, based on everything that I've read. But I do believe that we're going to face some tough times. And if you don't get your head straight, and if you don't get your beliefs straightened out, you're going to be rocked. You're going to be rocked, I'm telling you. If you're thinking that we're going to get raptured before the things get tough, the second something bad happens, you're going to be like confused. You're going to be like, I don't understand it. They're wanting us to take these digital IDs and all this kind of stuff, and I can't buy or sell anything. And now I'm going hungry and I'm starving, but I thought I was going to get raptured out of this stuff. And the government is saying this is only temporary. This is only for a couple of weeks until we straighten everything out at the grocery stores and all this kind of stuff. So just bear with me, borrow from your neighbors, all this kind of stuff, and we'll get everything sorted. But if you use the digital ID, it will go easier. We'll send the food right to your house. You don't have to worry about anything. You don't have to worry about starving. We're going to get food and water to your house. You have a digital ID sent in your email. It's on your phone. This is how we're processing everything. All the grocery stores are on board with it. Basically, you just tap your phone, you scan the QR code, whatever it is, and you're free to go get groceries. If you don't have a digital ID, you can't get groceries today, but you might be able to in 6 months or a year from now. We're working on it right now. So in the meantime, if you can just take the mark, then we'll sort all the other stuff out later. But if you don't, it's going to be tough because you're going to starve. You're not going to be able to eat. And if you there's all kinds of complications with that kind of stuff. And I don't think it's going to be an actual 666 on your right wrist. I don't think it's going to be that clear. I'd write it on my forehead, but that's kind of goofy. Hopefully this washes off because it would be a long day for me at work tomorrow walking around with 666. I should probably erase it. Oh, this is a permanent marker. This is not good. I just wrote it myself. 666. Anyways, the point is, I don't, this is going to drive me nuts now, especially when my wife comes home. She'll be like, what are you up to? Are you insane? She's a pastor. So it'll be like, hey, look at this. Is this kind of cool or what? I shouldn't joke about stuff like that. It's so bad. So bad. This is why you come here to this channel. Because again, I haven't eaten, so I get a little bit lightheaded. I get a little bit crazy. The point is, I don't think it's going to be like this because it's easy to avoid it. Because if they pull out the marker and they're like, hey, you need the mark, I'd be like, well, aha, aha, miss me. You know, they're trying to write on your head and you're like ducking and driving. It's like, I'm not taking the mark. I think that's too easy. I think it's a system. And I can go on and on about that, including the tabernacle, what I think the tabernacle is going to be. I don't think it's what you think it is. I don't think it's a physical tabernacle. Maybe I'll make a video about that later. But there are some top secret hints that King Solomon has actually given about the tabernacle that I missed a couple of times. I missed it. I was actually reading it today and I'm like, what is the wisest man on the planet talking about here? Is this some kind of code? What's he doing? So I might make a video about what I think Solomon is actually talking about. And I think a lot of people miss it. A lot of people miss it. Not saying I'm an expert or I am the smartest guy on the planet, but there are some clues that the smartest guy in the world was giving when he was making his prayer, when he was dedicating the temple. And that's all I'm going to say for now. But if you've not read that story in First Kings, I think you need to read it a few times because there are some gems in there that I can tie in with the book of Ezekiel at the end of Ezekiel, and I can also tie in with the book of Revelation. And I could talk about my thoughts as to what Solomon was actually talking about. So if you're interested in that, let me know. If you want to be a guest commentator, if you will, a guest host on my YouTube channel, let me know that as well. Because sometimes it's kind of boring just talking by yourself. There, that's it for today, Kyle. I hope you're still a fan. I hope you are subscribed to my channel. Thank you for spending the time in going through all the verses and typing them out in the comments so that I can do due diligence and do research, and hopefully this helps get rid of the idea that we're going to be raptured before the going gets tough. If not, feel free to comment. Let me know if you think there's another ton of verses that I've missed. Let me know that in the comments as well. Otherwise, I want you guys to have a fantastic evening. And don't forget, read this Bible. This is the authorized King James Version. This has changed my life over the past year. It's just absolutely amazing. And I can go on and on about this book. It's just amazing. If you had told me a year ago that I would love reading the King James, I would have said, you are full of jelly beans. There's no way you would ever get me to read the King James Version. But I'm telling you, because I'm on my 7th time in the last year, it's revolutionary. It changes your thinking. It's like you can almost look at this like software. This is a software update. If you have stinking thinking and your brain is fuzzy and you're like, man, I'm addicted to pornography and I don't know why I'm swearing all the time. I don't know why I have anger issues. I don't know why I drink. I don't know why I smoke. all this kind of stuff. If you have addictive problems, I think you need a software update. We already have new hardware, which is a new heart, but we need a software update. We need to cleanse our mind. We need to renew our mind daily. Every single day, I read the Bible. And this, even if you don't understand every single word in the Bible, the process of going through this, just think of it as an update on your mind. That's all you're doing is you're reading it over and over again every month. Just think of it as software update. Just a little patch. That's all it is. It's just a little update. And pretty soon what happens is you get little verses here and there that pop out and they stick in your head. And then when you come across them again, you're like, whoa, where was that from? That's amazing. And this book gets smaller and smaller, but it gets more powerful and more powerful. It can change you. It has the power to change you. Why? Because this is God's word. And this Bible teaches you everything about God's heart, including his son, Jesus Christ. So that's why I say, read this. We don't worship this book, but in it, the contents are so powerful. Like if I could memorize this book, it would be amazing, amazing. Because then if you're in the Turkish prison, like in my other video, you got enough stuff. Like right now, I honestly believe that I have enough in my head from reading the Bible that I would be okay for at least a few days in a Turkish prison. I know it sounds kind of weird saying that, right? But hey, read the Bible, read it over and over again. I promise you, it will be helpful. And now I know if somebody's watching this video at the end and they're seeing this guy is satanic or something weird. Don't worry, I'm going to wash it off. It was an accident. I was a little bit impulsive. I wrote 666 on my hand to prove a point that I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think it's more of a system. But if I can't wash this off, I'm going to be in big trouble tomorrow. It's going to be a tough day at the office. Anyways, thanks for watching. Hope you got something out of this. Subscribe to this channel. Come on, do it now. And then feel free to comment. Always appreciate your comments. If you want me to talk about something as well, if you think I missed something, let me know that. All right, have a great night. See you later.